Good afternoon, and welcome to the May 10th Civil Service Commission meeting. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Devine?
Here.
Commissioner Gazarian?
Here.
Chairman Manoukian?
Here.
For the record, Commissioners Yakupian and Abkarian are absent.
Okay, what's next?
Minutes for the meeting of April 12, 2017.
Do I have a motion?
I move for approval.
Second?
I cannot. I was absent.
I will second.
We need.
We would not have a quorum.
Unless you've reviewed the minutes and or watched the video and you're able to comment on it, then we'll just put the matter over to the next meeting.
Okay. Next meeting. What's next?
Oral communications.
No cards. What's next?
Recruitment and examination report.
Mr. Doyle?
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this item is your monthly recruitment report. It shows all the activity of the staff broken down by department, section, whether the position is open, promotional, hourly. Also has the dates, the scheduled examination processes. Right now we have about it's like 63 processes currently going amongst the staff, many of whom are here in the audience. If you have any questions about any of these recruitment processes, be happy to try and answer them. Otherwise, this is a note and file, and we can take your questions if you have any.
I see no other questions. We're going to move one item next. So we're going to do this out of order. Which item is?
Number 9.
Number 9? Okay, can we have number 9, please?
Reports.
Mr. Doyle.
This is the past due employee performance evaluation report. You can see this is a note and file item. It has a listing of all the departments and their status relative to past due evaluations. We have, it looks like 5 departments with some late performance evaluations. The remainder have none. And then, so 4 of those are with past dues of first notice, and we have 1 second notice. And we have the department head from that department here today. So.
Can we have the dear department head approach the mic?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Commission. I apologize for having this second notice. In our defense, our department over the course of the last few months was a little preoccupied with a small function called the General Municipal Elections. I can assure you that this report has now been completed, and it is on its route to the Human Resources Department, as well as the other one that should be on the first notice.
Thank you, sir. Any questions?
No.
Bye-bye. Thank you, sir. Mr. Doyle, what's next?
Eligible list established.
Mr. Doyle.
This item, the eligible list established, as I always say, this is the culmination of our recruitment processes. We have 11 lists that have been established in the last month. Unusual, all of these are promotional, but we do have, again, an indication of the relatively busy recruitment times. There are a couple that I want to highlight. One, fire engineer, which had 11 applicants, 4 made it. That's a very labor-intensive process with 4 separate practical stages to it, driving a apparatus, operating the pumps, operating the aerial ladder truck, and other factors. And it's a really challenging exam. Also during this time, we also did a promotional firefighter recruit. This is the process we utilize when we look at our internal pool of part-time employees, our ambulance operators, our fire cadets, and offer them the opportunity to promote to the firefighter recruit position. It's probably one of our most effective means of diversifying the department. Most of these individuals who are ambulance operators and the cadets, they're usually drawn from our local community, more reflective of our overall demographics within the Glendale community. So anyway, those are some of the highlights, and again, this is a note and file item. If you have questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Any questions?
No question.
I see none. What's next?
Class specification for approval, parking services supervisor.
Mr. Doyle.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this is a class specification for a newly approved classification. This was brought before City Council back in February. The position title is Parking Services Supervisor, and this is part of what I would say a significant reorganization of the parking function involving both Public Works and the police department. In, I believe it was March of this year, we brought before you a reorganization involving sort of the police side of it, where we're going to take our existing CSO parking checkers and utilize a different classification for them. A chunk of that work is going to be contracted out to firms that do exclusively parking enforcement at expanded hours, expanded enforcement, hopefully expanded revenue from that. This side of it will relate to within Public Works, which handles the parking fund and the budget for that. And this position will be supervising that contract that is ultimately brought in to help supplement our existing parking enforcement. We may have other uses for this particular title as things sort out, not only just with parking enforcement, but also with management of our city-owned parking structures and lots, as well as the parking meter repair and collection function. So again, that part of it is yet to be determined, but again, we wanted to have this classification in place for our future reorganizational needs. So with that, I do have Deputy Chief Povolitis is here from police, as well as Tad Dombrowski, who's our parking supervisor or parking manager from Public Works, and then Sean Chavez from my staff who did the specification. So if you have questions, I'd be happy to try and help you with those.
Any questions?
Move for approval?
Yes?
Yes. Second.
Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Devine,
Yes.
Commissioner Gazarian,
Yes.
Chairman Okian.
Yes. What's next?
Class specification for approval, fire prevention series.
Okay. Mr. Doyle.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this is a specification for approval. This is a revision to an existing job series, the fire prevention. This is really an effort to bring this specification up to date. It's been about 10 years since we last looked at this, and there have been some minor changes made really at the state level with the state fire marshals certifications, and those are addressed in the educational aspect of this specification. And then we did modify some of the minimum requirements for this position to, I'd say, better reflect industry standards. Quite frankly, and you'll notice many of those minimum requirements we have in fact reduced, fewer years of experience required, because quite frankly we were not competitive in having difficulty with recruitment and retention for positions within this series. Really for what we're paying and for what we're requiring, we just are not able to compete. So I know that it's not within the Commission's purview to address salary-related items or compensation-related items, and that is a different issue which we'll address in a different venue. But with regard to updating this series, we felt it was appropriate to bring those minimum qualifications into a more realistic area. So with that, again, if you have questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them. We do have our Assistant Fire Marshal, Mr. Doug Nichols, here, along with Manya Hunanian from my staff.
Any questions? I just have one question. And is it really necessary to itemize under the ability to listen carefully to understand others? I'm sorry, but is there anywhere that says you must also breathe?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Chairman Ukian, we try to be thorough. So,
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion?
don't take things for granted.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, can we have a roll call?
Commissioner Devine,
Yes.
Commissioner Gazarian,
Yes.
Chairman Okian.
Yes. What's next?
Job bulletin for approval, human resources analyst.
Mr. Doyle.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this is a bulletin. Unlike the previous two items, which were specifications, the bulletin to requesting an open recruitment for human resources analyst. This is a position within our department. In our previous administration of this particular recruitment process, we did it promotionally, and when you switch from something being promotional to open, we do bring it before the commission for your approval. Our intention would be to seek a broader pool of candidates for this particular opening, and we fully expect that if we were to make this an open process. We did one of these recruitments about a year ago, and it yielded two good candidates internally who got the job. But again, our attempt would be to seek a broader pool this go around. So with that, if you have questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them for you.
Any questions? Do I have a motion?
Move for approval?
Do I have a second?
Give me a second.
I'm sorry? Oh, we're waiting for a second.
I have a question before, if I may.
Okay.
When you say investigate civil service appeals, is this where an employee has been disciplined and it's an appellate process before the matter reaches this body? Is that what that means?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Gazarian, this would be the process prior to an appeal getting before commission, and maybe investigates isn't
Is this
the
the Skelly?
appropriate. No.
Prior to the Skelly.
Prior to
No.
the
Prior to the Skelly.
When we use the term civil service appeals, that could apply to an appeal of an examination
I see.
question or an examination in and of itself.
Okay.
Or it could be what you raise. But this would be any preliminary attempt to resolve a matter administratively before it gets to your level.
All right,
we
thank
always
you.
attempt to do that.
Thank you. I second.
Okay, can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Devine?
Yes.
Commissioner Gazarian?
Yes.
Chairman Ukian.
Yes. What's next?
Civil Service Commission staff comments?
Yes.
I have one comment. It's my understanding that Commissioner Yakubian has resigned from the commission, or her term is up, and I'd like to ask, with the concurrence of my colleagues, that we put on next month's agenda the selection of a new vice chair.
Okay.
Sure, absolutely.
And I was going to say the same thing. Commissioner Yakubian, who did an outstanding job as a commissioner, we certainly want to express our appreciation for her service. She did inform us that she did not wish to seek a reappointment to this commission. I received an email, and I believe either the chair received one, or I know she sent it to a number of people, but it wasn't completely clear as to whether or not she was resigning or if she was just simply not seeking reappointment. So I think we got clarification of that today. Just prior to the meeting, she sent an email indicating that she was in fact no longer going to be serving. So
Okay.
typically, and I think many members of the commission are aware that typically a commissioner will serve until they are replaced or reappointed. So there was a little bit of lack of clarity there, perhaps on my part. I should have probably called her to clarify that. But I do, in fact, I concur with your decision. We do need a vice chair, and we'll certainly put that on the agenda for next month. And I do, again, want to express my appreciation publicly for Commissioner Yakubian's service to this commission.
Likewise, and on behalf of the commission, we all thank her for her time and dedication. One thing that I wanted to do was finish this meeting in memory of on May 27th, it will be 20 years that we lost one of our civil servants, Chuck Lazaretto. And I had the opportunity to meet his son recently, who was one of our police officers, Andrew Lazaretto, and I can attest, phenomenal guy. So I wanted to end the meeting in memory of Chuck and all the sacrifices that the Lazaretto family has to have, all the birthdays that they've missed, all the... So with that, what's next?
Adjournment.
Move to adjourn?
We're adjourned.
Thank you.